God, may the words of my mouth and may the meditations on all of our hearts be acceptable in your sight. For you are our rock, our Redeemer, our Liberator. Amen. So as we have said in this sanctuary at least 8 other times, this summer we are working our way through a book called Naked Spirituality by Brian McLaren. This is a book of spiritual practices designed to help us become closer to God as we navigate the seasons of our lives. And McLaren focuses on 12 practices, and he sums them up with just one word. Here are the words that we have explored so far. Listen to how they shift the more words we go through, how the nature of them changes. We begin with hear, thanks, and oh. We continue with sorry, help, please, and then when and no. They start out simple and they become more complex as faith develops and as struggles increase. These last few weeks have brought us into what McLaren calls the season of perplexity. Gone are the days of childlike wonder and easy answers. The primary challenge in the season of perplexity is how to simply hang on in the face of mounting hardship and growing doubt. And so in our seasons of perplexity, we find ourselves asking, when will this suffering end? And we find ourselves saying, no, I refuse to believe that God is powerless in response to this. And today, this week, we are invited to explore that basic quest to find meaning out of what has been senseless. We are invited to ask the question, why? Why is a question that permeates our Bible. Jeremiah takes his why straight to God and asks, why does the way of the guilty prosper? Why do all who are treacherous thrive? And King David in Psalm 2 raises the why made famous by Handel. Why do the nations so furiously rage together? Why do they imagine a vain thing? And Jesus, hanging from the cross, invokes the 22nd Psalm in perhaps the most poignant and terrible why of our sacred text. My God, why have you forsaken me? Brian McLaren writes that in that moment, Jesus is suspended and stretched spiritually just as he is physically, crucified between the my of faith, my God, and the why of abandonment. Between the my of faith and the why of abandonment. Asking God why is what allows us to hold fast to the tattered remnants of our faith while in the midst of our most devastating human experiences. Asking God why is connective, beginning with our articulation of what is true and seeking to move to a place of deeper understanding, deeper meaning, with God. Asking God why is profoundly faithful because it holds the question open and it makes better relationship possible. Now, of course, there are other ways to respond when we are stretched thin. Maybe you know some of those other ways and engage in them like I do. Rather than ask why, sometimes it's easier to tell because. Because is not interested in holding the question open, because assumes that the question has already been settled. Because has a sense of certainty and righteousness about itself and does not seek meaning beyond what it has already concluded to be true. All week long, our nation has been in because mode in the wake of the George Zimmerman verdict. From the people yelling at each other on TV and the radio, to the people unfriending each other on Facebook, people all across the political and social spectrum have been galvanized to full out because mode ever since the verdict came out late Saturday night. You are wrong because this was an obvious case of racial profiling. You are wrong because this was an obvious case of self-defense. You are wrong because this one act is part of 400 years of racial injustice that has been given immoral cover by our legal system. You are wrong because this one act is about what happened between George Zimmerman and Trayvon Martin, and we can't hold Mr. Zimmerman accountable for 400 years of injustice. You are wrong not to come to the vigil because we have a moral responsibility to be in solidarity with those who are suffering. You are wrong to protest because we have no business fanning the flames of racial unrest. All across the spectrum, we have been in full out because mode. I confess that in the wake of this verdict, I have been in full out because mode. I have some strong convictions about what we have seen play out this past year and culminating this past week. I am angry about what has transpired between Trayvon Martin and George Zimmerman, and I despair over the national conversation that has ensued since. I believe that one of the things we as Americans are simply incompetent about talking about in any grand sense is race. Few other issues are so deeply embedded in the blood and the sweat and the bricks and the mortar of our nation since its inception. And few other issues are so contentiously divisive. Whenever there is a major watershed moment, a racial moment in our culture like this, black and brown people who have historically borne the brunt of racial prejudice articulate a level of pain and dissatisfaction that does not usually resonate as strongly among those of us who are white. There is nearly always an emotional gap between those who claim a deep sadness, anger, and alienation, and those who genuinely don't understand why we can't just move on for once and for all. And so I came out swinging because I have been sensitive to that deeply held pain, even though it does not arise out of my experience as a white man. I trust my friends of color when they gift me with their stories of personally encountering racism. I trust my lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender friends when they tell me the impact that civil discrimination has on them. I trust my white friends who are attuned to the same commitments that I am. I love all of my friends, and I am committed to a better world, and I feel angry and sad and convicted by the actions and inactions committed by people like me throughout history. Well-meaning Christians, well-meaning white folks, well-meaning straight folks who have a bit of an emotional gap with folks who are not quite like us. So right when the verdict hit, I came out swinging. I came out swinging hard. I blasted away, mostly on Facebook, which, by the way, is a terrible way to communicate about anything important. Convinced of the righteousness of my cause, I got up on my virtual soapbox. I deplored the racism of our justice system. I dismissed those who denied the racial implications of this case. I argued with people who were arguing with my friends. I pontificated at length about the broader statistical analysis and the racial backdrop of our country. I explored abstract what-if scenarios. And yeah, I got some folks saying amen in my echo chamber. I have been in full-out because mode. But here's what I didn't do, not even once. Engage somebody on the question of why. I did not at any point reach out and seek deeper meaning from someone who believes differently than I do. I know you're out there. I know some of you are right here in this sanctuary. And yet, it's so much easier to get mad and sad out there than to come back in here. Come to you and ask the question, why? Why do you believe as you do? Why do you feel angry and sad about this? Why do you not feel angry and sad about this? What do you understand about this that I do not? I worry that the more I put myself out there in because mode, the more it closes me off to better relationship with those whom I love but find myself in disagreement with. And I don't want to be closed off in relationship with any of you. I don't want to be closed off to my people, even when we disagree profoundly. I don't want to be arguing about how the question has already been settled. I want there to be room enough for your why, and I want there to be room enough for my why. Making room for each other to voice why is profoundly faithful because it holds the question open and makes possible better relationship. So because of the ever-renewing grace of God, each one of us has an opportunity today. A new opportunity to take inventory of ourselves and find the areas of our lives where we have been stuck in because. What if you and I could change some of our places of because into places of why? What if we could change some of our encounters with others from a shutting down directive to an opening question? Changing the posture from telling to asking. May we be convicted by the wisdom of Jeremiah, David, and Jesus as we lift up our why to one another and to God. May we be bold in holding our questions open for the sake of better relationship. Amen.